Okay, guys, welcome back. It's episode 27. I'm fresh from getting rained down outside, having to walk, had to run home for you. I do it for you. Episode 27 of the 50/50 Showcase. This is my showcase display of 50 different level 50 builds of different superheroes, mega villains, rogues, vigilantes, you name it, from the City of Heroes Homecoming server game playing on the Excelsior Shard. This is my 27th out of 50 characters. This is Spring Fury. She is the second Dominator of my collection. She has plant control. She's got electric assault and psionic or psychic mastery. Those are her three. You've seen you've seen plant control before with Himalaya, one of my controllers. I haven't played any electric assault. And Psi, you've seen a few different variations of it. This is the Dominator version of Psi Mastery. For me, Psi is pretty popular across the board. Tertiary patron type of set. Not patron, because none of the actual villain patrons have Psi, but ancillary power pools, the tertiary stuff. Anyway, let's get into this build, shall we? Let me go ahead and activate mids so you can see it. There we go. Beautiful. Pop this over here. So here you go. This is Spring Fury. As with my Dominator I showcased the other day, Miranda, Spring Fury is also going to be a Perma Dominator. If you don't know what Perma Domination is, you probably haven't played Dominators before, but Dominators have this inherent power known as Domination, which boosts their control durations, their control magnitude, so they can one-shot hold bosses, that sort of thing. It also boosts their, I think it's their damage briefly when it's clicked. So permadomination simply means this power recharges faster than it expires or its duration. So in other words, its duration is 90 seconds. So if I can get this thing to recharge in less than 90 seconds, then it will be perma because I'm going to put it onto auto fire by control clicking on it. So whenever it becomes active, it's going to click, it's going to fire. And in order to activate it the first time, you just need to fill your domination bar. And to do that, you attack. It's real simple. You click your attack powers, your control powers, that sort of stuff, things that target the enemy, and your domination bar will start to fill. And it fills faster on bigger teams. But once it's full, it's auto fire click, it's going to go. It's going to last for 90 seconds. If you take a look, I have the recharge down to 79.6 seconds. So it will recharge faster than it will expire. So it is permadom. In order to achieve permadomination, you must get a bare minimum global recharge of 140%. I have 151.3%. Starting out, you have 0% recharge global. So in order to get 140 or higher, you have to use lots of different set bonuses from the IOs that are in the game, which if you take a look, you can see I've got lots of IOs, and many of them are going to have recharge as one of their set bonuses. So if you take a look here, for instance, in Strangler, the single target hold, I have 4 Basilisk's Gaze IO sets in this power. And you can see that 2 of them gives me defense to energy negative as well as ranged. 3 of them gives me recovery, and the 4, which is what I have, gives you a 7.5% global recharge boost. So you need power sets like this throughout your build to give you a whole bunch of recharge to add up to that 140. However, I also have sort of a cheap, easy way to get a bunch of recharge is to take the Hasten power. Hasten by itself as a power will enhance your global recharge by 70% whenever you click it. The only problem with this is that Hasten will expire. Hasten itself has a duration of 120 seconds, and my recharge on Hasten is 134 and a half. So it's going to be down for about 15 seconds before I can click it again. And you can only have one power on auto fire, so that's sort of the other little trick to this thing. So domination's on auto fire. I have to remember to click Hasten to get that 70% recharge. And when I do that, that's going to count for about half of the total recharge I have. So if you're going for permadomination, one easy way to get there is to take the hasten power and slot it with recharges. I have two. These are actually going to be plus fives because I have them 50 plus five on my build. So they're going to give me pretty close to 95% recharge. Let me do that. Set my relevant levels to plus five. Yes, I will do that. Okay, and if you take a look, that should have boosted now. You can see my recharge time is 95.9% recharge. So this power is now recharging in about 130 seconds. So I got about a 10-second delay between it crashing and then being able to re-click it. But anyway, you have to remember to click this manually. That's what I'm trying to get at. But that is one way to get half of your recharge right there. The rest, you got to get it through sets. And if you just take a look at my sets, another easy way to do it is to get Luck of the Gamblers, these global recharge boosting IOs right here, these 7.5%. I've got one, I've got two, I've got three of them on this build right there. So 3 times 7 is what, 22.5%. So that plus my 70 puts me at 92.5%. So all I need is another whatever 40 some percent, 47 and a half, I think, if my quick math in my head is right. So that's where all these other power sets boost bonuses come in, stuff like the Basilisk Gaze, which I got two of those. There's 15%. I've got the Flytrap has expedient reinforcement. That's also 6.25%. I like those two sets because you only need four to get the recharge bonus on there. I've got Crushing Impacts, five of those gives a recharge bonus of 5%. I've got a couple of Positrons Blast, those are going to give 6.25 here, and then Static Discharge. I've got Obliteration is a 5% recharge boost. Where else do I have to recharge? There's another Obliteration sitting here. Let's see, not there. I think those are all of my easy locations for recharge. I was trying to see if I have any other ones hiding somewhere. I don't think so. I think that's all of my different recharges, but it's obviously enough to give me perma domination. And one thing I want you to kind of compare, if you haven't looked at my Miranda build, go ahead and take a look at that because she had like upwards of 180% recharge, which was, more than enough. If you watch the videos there, she was firing permadom like crazy. I have more than enough as well here, but it's going to be closer to not having enough. So if I get hit by any minus recharge attacks, that sort of thing by enemies, that can knock me out of permadom. I don't have any mitigation on this particular build for recharge resistance, debuffing, that sort of thing. I did have it on Miranda. I didn't mention it, but she did have the winter set. I believe it was the I forget. There's that universal travel power that has slow resistance. So she did have some. I think it's like a 30% resistance to minus speed, minus recharge. And I think some of the winter sets also provide that. But if you'll take a look really quick, the big difference between this permadom and Miranda's permadom is I have nowhere near the uber expensive build here. If you look at this build is cheap compared to what I spent on Miranda's build. I mean, the Luck of the Gamblers, yeah, they're going to cost you probably 7-8 million each, but I've only got three of them. The rest of these sets are, I mean, they're cheap, right? I mean, posies are pretty cheap. You're paying like 1 million or so per enhancement. The same with the obliterations. The basilisk gazes are a little bit more, a couple million each one of these. The crushing impacts are really cheap. You can probably get them for 500,000 each. The entropic chaoses are, I'm not even gonna talk about them because they don't actually boost that endurance, or sorry, recharge. So I don't need to worry about that. But most of my power sets are uncommons or rares, but cheaper ones. I don't have any purple sets. I don't have any ATOs, etc., etc. So this is a cheap build. You could probably make this permadom build for what, 200 million at most, right? And that's bulk of that's probably gonna be the Luck of the Gamblers, as a pool of powers. The rest of these things are all just common stuff, IOs, uncommon IO sets, and some rare sets. Real cheap, and if you've got a bunch of these maybe stashed in your base because you've been crafting these enhancements all along, just converting things, then you're not going to have a problem making this permadom. So a lot of people will, on the forums especially, will think, oh, permadom, it's super expensive, Uber builds, all these purple sets. You can't, it's not reality. No, okay, it's perfectly easy to get a permadom build. Just like you see here, a bunch of easy peasy, fairly inexpensive sets. Anybody can do this. this gives you permadom. And I can milk a little bit more out of this if I go to the, and I'm able to do this in game, but if you go to the base empowerment stations that you can have in your super bases, your super group bases, they have an empowerment station you can put in, and you can craft yourself increase attack speed empowerment, which is another 20%. So if I was concerned about, hey, this 150 is not high enough, I can go craft that for another 20% and get this to 171 and have a nice cushion of recharge, no problem for this build. So this one, I'm not super concerned about running out of domination, but it can happen if I get, let's say, a bunch of psi attacking foes or like cold ice attacking foes. Those two power sets typically have minus recharge in them. Then the other thing I have here in order to improve my recharge situation is I have Ageless, like you saw with my other Permadon Miranda. This is the plus endurance plus recharge, and this will have debuff resistance. This will protect me from some of that minus recharge. So when I click it, you'll see that my recharge numbers are now at 221. So once I click Ageless from the Incarnates, I have Permadomination, no problem at all. I've got Vigor out here that is accuracy, endurance reduction, because similar to what I've mentioned with Miranda, high recharge builds like these Permadoms, even though your domination every time it fires refills your endurance bar, the fact that you are firing so many attacks and have such high recharge means you're going to burn through endurance pretty quickly. So let's take a look at those numbers. I've got 3.3 recovery, 1.2 end drain. So that is not too bad, but that's with vigor. So if I shut vigor off, it's 1.5 versus 3.3. So that's close to that 2-to-1 ratio I talk about. But once I have my incarnate slotted with vigor, I'm down to 1.2, and that's a lot better, of course. I went with vigor also because it has some healing boost to it as well. So if I put the pop-ups back on, you can see. So I got the endurance. It has healing. Hey, why healing? Well, I do have Spirit Tree, which has a regen boost, so that's one reason for it. Plus, just health. So between health and Spirit Tree, it's not a super waste, right, of an incarnate. So a third of that incarnate is actually going to help with at least Spirit Tree, which I can throw out pretty regularly because the recharge in this is under a minute and the duration is 90 seconds. So every minute I can drop a new Spirit Tree. So it's every other spawn I can drop one of these things for some more regeneration. That's good if you're fighting tough foes or let's say AVs or something like that. So anyway, I've got that, and then of course Vigor gives accuracy, which is probably one of the other huge reasons I have it, more so than healing, of course, and pretty close to what the endurance reduction is for. Because you saw me with Miranda, you've heard me say this before. I hate missing, and Electric Assault does have. If I take a look at the assault set, it does have build up, so I do have build up, and build up's right here, and this will give you it's a hit boost. So unlike Earth controls, what is power up or whatever, this does have some accuracy boosting, so to hit boosting. But having vigor gives me across the board even more accuracy, so I have that. And then the other thing here, you'll notice it's boosting confusion, sleep, and fear. Confusion being the big one that I'm going to take advantage of because I'm using Seeds of Confusion, and I have World of Confusion from my Psychic Psionic Mastery power set. So I have 2 confusion powers right there. I didn't take the Sleep Spore Burst, so I'm not going to make use of that, and I don't have any fear powers, so I'm not going to make use of that. But the confusion is the main, control thing I wanted to get from that incarnate. Then what else do I have here? Reactive Course can help me boost just my damage because it adds a minus resistance and fire over time proc to it. I've got Ion, Core Judgment, so that's gonna be the big old zappy zap that everybody loves. It's probably the biggest, baddest blast out there, ranged anyway. Because this Dominator is a ranged Dominator for the most part. Unlike what you saw with Miranda, where I was spending a lot more time in melee, plant control is a very stand back type of control. You got your bread and butter Seeds of Confusion, that's ranged. You've got, Strangler, that's ranged. You've got Creepers, you drop that from range. Vines is range. Notice I didn't take a bunch of, like, remember I was talking about this in Miranda's build. I didn't take the Immobilizes at all. I don't have Entangle. I don't have Roots. Now you could, use Roots if you wanted some more AoE damage and you wanted to proc it out, but I have a ton of, damagey attacks here in Electricity Assault. So I didn't need Entangle and I didn't need Roots. Spore Burst, that is a nice opening sleep option, to replace Confusion, for instance. But because I have so much recharge, Seeds of Confusion is gonna be up and ready anyway. What's my recharge on this thing? I've got it down to, let's see, here we are. Seeds of Confusion, recharge is 60 seconds. Duration is going to be at least 44. I don't think that even counts for my slotting, or maybe it does. But anyway, so every 60 seconds, I'm going to be throwing the Seeds of Confusion out. It's got high levels of recharge there, so it's going to be up more often than it's not. And so if you take a look, the Confusion is going to last 44 or 45 seconds, right? This is, I think, when you are boosting it with Dominations another 30 seconds or something. But anyway, the recharge is pretty high, the duration is pretty high, the magnitude's high. You're going to be one-shot confusing everybody in the spawn with that. So that's pretty much your big opener. That, or maybe drop creepers around a corner. You'll see this in some of the I don't know how I just deleted my Seeds of Confusion, but anyway, oops, have to reload that build in a second. But anyway, so let me fix this real quick. Reload. I cleared Seeds of Confusion. Let me pause, and I'll come back and fix it with it fixed. All right, I fixed it. There we go. All right, so it's back. Anyway, so I was saying that's kind of your big opener there. Anyways, what else did I want to show? Oh, carrying creepers. I've got that procced out with a ton of damage here. Posi, Trap of the Hunter, Impeded Swiftness, Explosive Strike, and then I've got a couple just damage recharges. So, throw creepers out. It's going to be doing a bunch of damage just with those procs firing. And what's the recharge in this? 118 seconds. So its duration is 120. Its recharge is 118. So it's perma. All right, perma creepers. You're going to have that out all the time. So I've already got a couple of good openers. I really didn't need Spore Burst. And, I'm really not this character's really not a big solo build anyway. It's not that it's a big team build either, but you get the idea that I have most of my controls are stacked in the later game stuff. So I'm not worrying about single target immobilize or a big old sleep that's going to get interrupted anyway. So I'm just going to be going with the big boys. I'm going to be going out with seeds. I'm going to be throwing out the creepers. What's my vines numbers looking like? Vines, my recharge is 77 on this one. The duration's about 30 seconds. So, in every other spawn control I've got there. So I've got plenty of control with this character. And then from range, I've got the bunch of the blasts from Electricity Assault. I have a bunch of the melee stuff too, but I got charge bolts, I got lightning bolt, I've got static discharge, and then from the size set, I've got Cynado. So those couple single charge blasts, charge bolts, lightning bolt, static discharge, and then Cynado. That combined with just the confusion is going to do most of my AoE damage with creepers. You got the fly trap pet out there. There's plenty of damage, and then I do have enough to get into melee as well. I've got Charge Brawl, I've got Havoc Punch, and I've got, big old Thunder Strike. I don't have Voltaic Sentinel. I don't like this power. I never really have. It might be worse now than it was. I don't know. You summon this little ball of lightning. It follows you around. It's on what, a timer now or something like that. I don't know. It's just a random shot of electricity and different targets. There's no control over it. It doesn't really do anything, so I'm not sure. I'd rather have just another single target attack than that stupid thing. But whatever. The only thing I'm wishing I had was Zap. If I could throw that in. But it's kind of one of the problems with trying to go for Permadom is you kind of have to make some sacrifice like that. But where I could probably squeeze it in if I really wanted it is I did dip heavily into the fight pool because I wanted, tough and weave for survivability. I didn't have to take cross punch. It's just that I'm kind of building this hybrid ranged melee, so I can go into melee and punch, punch, punch. It just gives me another punch option. It's a little cone, right? So I've got a couple single target punches. The Thunder Strike's like a small AoE explosion, and then this is a nice little mini cone. So I could dump that and grab Zap a single target, whatever. But then, I had to take some defense powers because I had to grab the luck of the gambler. So I got combat jumping, I got stealth. So that gives me two more places on top of weave to put the luck of the gamblers. I could have put another one on Link Mines, but I didn't. Link Mines, I just went with a more affordable Red Fortune set there, but I could get some more recharge right there if I wanted to. Let's see what else. And because I do have World Confusion and Seeds Confusion, this does mean I can start at range with the seeds and then go into melee because I do have some punches and I've got the World Confusion to help confuse stack things around me. I'm not a huge fan of World Confusion. I've mentioned it before. Aside from the graphic stuff, it's just not exactly super reliable, but I think in combination with seeds, it is much better on this Dominator build than it is on my defenders who had it. And I think I also had it on maybe a blaster. I forget. I had it on maybe a corruptor, but anyway, I had it on a couple of those more squishier builds. I don't think it was that great because it was your only real confused. But I think here with the Dominator, stacking that and Seeds Confusion is a nice combination. And the 4 slots gives me some more psi resistance, which teams nicely with my mind over body set. So if you take a look at my survival numbers, then my totals, you can see my defenses are in the 30s. Part of that is because of, let me turn off my incarnate stuff so you can see more of the raw numbers. So there's my raw numbers, right? I'm looking at 27% or so just with these things turned on. So I've got about 25, 27%, somewhere there. Decent defense across the board. I've got pretty high smash lethal, about 10% shy of smash lethal cap. So between these two, decent defenses, smash lethal resistance, uh, pretty high psi resistance as well. I've got survivable defenses. And that's really what it's all about with Dominators. You need to be able to survive maybe that initial alpha that's coming at you or that breaking containment type of situation where one of your controls misses or one of your controls drops and the guys snap out of it and they start attacking you. And so you need to buy yourself a few seconds before your next big control is recharged, and then you can fire it again and finish the job. It's going to be a little bit sketchier than my Earth or my Miranda build that you saw with the gravity and the Earth. She just had a ton of lots of soft control, hard control, just smashing, banging everything. This is going to rely more on the one trick pony Seeds of Confusion to stir things up, keep the group guessing and beating on each other. It's going to rely heavily on carrying creepers, chipping in some damage. It's going to rely heavily on your fly trap throwing in some extra damage. And then after that, you're just in there pounding and blasting away. That's pretty much your game. I would say it's much better with teams because you go open up seeds, you got Spirit Tree to add some support. If anything gets close to you, especially if you're playing in the back row, you can confuse it. World of Confusion, you got creepers you can drop out there. So it's a well balanced build, I guess, but it's not going to be super mowing down enemies, solo, other than the confusion. And if you're running a confusion resistance like you do with Nemesis, then you really feel like a gimp at that point. All right, I think I covered the main things about the build that are interesting or useful. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and go ahead and try to get some sort of solo action going so you can see how this operates in practice. All right, I'll be back.